for the conjure of John Dee that he gave to the Queen of England in order to put the people under a hypnotic trance in America. So this is why they gave us the assassination of Crispus Attucks, and they can't let us forget who shed first blood. Because this is how you gonna determine who was the defender and who was the attacker. That's how you gonna know who is white on the chessboard and who is black, right? The black pieces, they consider him already dead because the white piece moved first. He drew first blood, right? And what did he do with his bloody hands? He covered the mouth of the women so that they couldn't scream while you violate them. So now, in remembrance of any other sisters, you see them wearing the bloody handprint on their mouth. Because they was warned with the threat of death not to say nothing when they got abused.
Right.
It's the same enemy. The enemy cloaked himself. Over here, Noble Jew Ali discovered them in New Jersey as Moorish Zionist Jews. Right? So then, as a counteroffensive, he created the Moorish Science Temple. Right? Because he got to fight conjure magic with conjure magic. Right? All of the chiefs know that back then. It's common knowledge, just like it's common knowledge that Tupac was a rapper. Same type of common knowledge.
Yeah, that's deep. That's real deep. And then, so because that goes back to, especially when you talk about the technology for the flying saucers, the technology for the crafts that the Nazis and Hitler and all of them had access to. Now, when we get into this part of the conversation, because we about to go ahead and start, raising the altitude. When we get into that part of the conversation, where does the correlation and the connection of the Nazi Germany's, society in regards to like extraterrestrial technology and crafts, but then how does that tie into why Antarctica? So
one of the things they discovered in theosophy is something called the Mahatmas. These were monks that kept ancient scrolls in the mountains of Tibet. So he sent a guy named Heinrich Himmler on an expedition to recover the scrolls. And they got a secret portion of scroll from the chapters of a text called the Vimana Sutra. The Vimana Sutra teaches you or gives you the blueprints to create anti-gravity flying apparatus. So they get a head start. They used modernization to try to update all of the graphics and update the technology that was being used so that they can make the craft more efficient. So those were the projects Hitler had them working on, right? And once they made contact with extraterrestrials, the game plan now has to take a drastic shift. On chess, that's called castle.
Yeah, that's deep. So what is the significance to that whole, the Nazi movement and all that with Antarctica? Because I know they have the poles blocked off and all that. What's the significance in that? And why is that?
Because when Adolf Hitler got a hold of the ancient world map, he found a place called Tartarus. And this is why everybody keeps saying Tartaria. But the place is Tartarus. It's spoke about also in the book of Enoch. And this is the land that was under the ice in Antarctica. They had already received the reports from Admiral Richard E. Byrd about his experiences in Antarctica. That was way before World War II.
Yeah.
So
That was
once they
like 30s. When was that? That was a long
1927, I think it was 1927 or something like that.
because he was flying over either the North or the South Pole, and he ended up flying into the inner Earth.
That's when he flew over the North Pole, when he flew into the inner Earth.
Gotcha.
When he flew to Antarctica, he talked about the unexplored lands that he's seen. Antarctica under the ice is probably big as North America or bigger.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why when people see the ice shelf, they think it's a wall. Right. But it's not a wall, it's a shelf. If you see it from the top, you will understand what I'm telling you. You can see all of the ancient structures starting to melt through the ice, thanks to the return of the sun cycle. The sun cycle is going to thaw Antarctica out. We got cryogenics and cryostasis from telepathic communication with people that was frozen under the ice to tell them how to thaw them out without killing them.
Oh boy.
Look, they try to tell us that they brought them from Africa and set them loose in Antarctica and they thrived. And they called them the Bashinga tribe. They was already under the ice. They thawed them people out. Based on telepathic instructions, the Nazis was the first to have a base in direct contact with the people in the ice. Right? One of the things that they was experimenting on is genetics. We got to remember, Adolf Hitler sent Benito Mussolini into Egypt. What was they looking for? Akhenaten. Akhenaten was the last great pharaoh that changed the paradigm from polytheism to monotheism. But it was a paradigm shift that was earth-shaking for the times. So they wanted somebody with the same capabilities. So they started a genetic breeding program called Boys from Brazil. They even made a movie about it. So while they was down there, they say that they was cloning Adolf Hitler. They wasn't cloning Adolf Hitler. They was cloning Akhenaten. And they was cloning them in a batch of 50. And they was always experimenting on them. And they was dying in the experiments until they got down to about 10 of them. And then they gave us one of them. And they told us his name was Barack Obama. But his name is Barry Sotoro. Born in Kenya, the land of the jackal. Rosemary's Baby. Damien. Right? So when we was looking for the Antichrist, he rose right in our face and we was too blind to see it.
Listen, okay. So now you went devil's advocate. Can you kind of tie that into how real the devil's advocate was? The symbolism in that movie and everything that was talked about?
Yeah, the devil's advocate with Al Pacino.
Yes. They broke down
so you got to remember that term devil's advocate is a lawyer in England. In England, the lawyer is called a devil's advocate. Devil mean enemy.
Yes.
Get the spookism out of it. The devil mean enemy.
Yep.
Right? So your personal devil is your personal enemy. You can have devils in your life that's angels in other people's. The gift and the curse. It cut both ways. So when the people begin to realize that everything is shifting, then we can get in alignment with the shift. But it all traces back to that same matriarchal energy.
I say. Yeah, that's deep. That's real deep. So now, because a lot of this, what you're talking about now, that brings us up to what's happening in real time. Kind of like when we see the parallels and the symbolism in the show Supercell, right? You had a chance to check out Supercell?
The show Supercell is about the people with sickle cell anemia.
Right. Now,
okay, so we are in the process of shifting in our genetic upgrade from a carbon-based entity to a crystal-based entity. When the defense mechanism for malaria that was dumped on them by Enlil, Enki genetically engineered them to defend themselves with the sickling of the cell from the malaria. Right? So they also have a program in their DNA that when the solar flash hit and the Earth sent out the pulse and we go crystalline DNA and all of the frauds is shut off, then they're going to have special abilities, but I don't know what they're going to be, but they're going to have special abilities because of the sickle cell trait. Like X-Men and shit. But I don't know what their ability is going to be, but they're going to have something extra.
Oh, they're going to be powerful. We had shout out to Wu Now. She was talking about it on here a few episodes ago about like the different powers that we're going to be seeing. And how does that tie into the solar flare? Because there's a lot going on with our sun right now with the solar flares and the holes in the sun.
The only time the genetics change in nature is when the solar flare sends out a radiation blast. The radiation blast causes the DNA to change. What we're looking at with the Schumann resonance spiking like it is, in the storms coming from the sun, they're talking to each other. And the Mother Earth is going to have to get rid of the parasites. So if we are in alignment with it, while this energy is doing this exchange, the DNA is crystalline, developing, and it has to upgrade with the solar flare. When the solar flare hit, it's going to go to the core of the Earth, and the core of the Earth is going to send out a Schumann response based on the solar flare. And it's going to send off a strong and powerful frequency blast. And the ones that don't belong here, you're going to know it because they're going to be talking about sirens is playing in their head, and they're going to be dropping to their knees and bleeding out their ears and other orifices as well. All of those are things, parasitic things that don't belong, that's masquerading as human.
That's deep. That's real deep because I was talking about the symbolism in regards to a lot of the like the neutrinos and the protons, electrons, how all that stuff ties into the resonance and the frequencies that we're talking about in all the different atmospheres above the planet, right? Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that, it's almost like, to me, like it's like a cutoff switch where you kind of say if you're using Wi-Fi and you walk too far away from your modem or your router or whatever, and then boom, the phone dead. Like you can't do nothing with it no more because you don't have access anymore. So is that what's going to happen with these beings and these parasites once these flares start to hit?
Then they're gonna be bugging the fuck out. They're gonna be crashing. They're gonna be crashing head first into cars and shit.
So it's gonna be like a real malfunction, like a real system malfunction.
You gonna see them break down. When that burst go off, a lot of them just gonna drop dead where they at. But they can't resist the frequency. But some of them that's a little higher vibratory gonna have it worse. Because they can endure it longer.
Yeah, that's deep.
So they're the ones gonna be trying to fight it, and that's when they're gonna be start having vessels and shit popping in their eyes and ears and shit.
That's deep. You know what that? What this kind of reminds me of, right? Have you ever seen that movie, The Immortals?
Yeah,
Oh, I love that movie. That's a dope movie. There's a whole lot of that reminds me of like the X-Men Apocalypse movie with the symbolism that's in that movie, The Immortals. So when
they
it comes to
talking
like,
about the Orisha.
there you go.
The
So
Orisha was the original immortals of the earth. They was also represented as the Titans. The Titans was the Orisha. This is why they don't want us using voodoo magic, because it relies on different aspects of understanding of the Orisha, the hoodoo. That was our defense. So they villainized it so that we wouldn't go to where our greatest power lie in order to fight their conjure magic back. So you know what I decided to do? Fight their ass with voodoo.
yes, sir.
And it been working. Ain't failed me yet. Black girl magic on every damn thing I do.
All day, every day. Yes, sir. Epa, Risha. Hekwaye answer. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, nah, this is that's
Well,
real.
you know what they traditionally call African spirituality is actually tribal spirituality. And it's the same thing expressed all over the world among the tribes naturally in their natural habitat before colonizers come and Christianize and Mohammedize them and institutionalize them to a foreign culture.
Mm,
Right? So the culture gonna always be there. And if we understand what we lost, we can go study Africa to figure some of it out. We can
mm,
go study Asia to figure some of it out. Studying the indigenous cultures, studying
mm,
Australian indigenous cultures, Maori indigenous cultures,
mm,
Hawaiian indigenous cultures. All of the cultures that was there before the colonizers is a central theme that tells you who the rightful heirs is to take care of the local land.
mm.
You exactly where you supposed to be on your land. Because in this life, that's where your birthright dropped you.
That's
Your
deep.
right of birth, the land you landed on. But they told you you landed in the sea.
That's
Admiralty
deep.
jurisdiction.
That's deep. Oof, that's real deep. Hmm. Man, oh man, oh man. So now in the like where we're going. So now to go back to Immortals in that movie, and this is something that I love, and I'm pretty sure let me ask you this before I ask you this question. I'm pretty sure you probably read it, but have you ever read the book damn, what's the name of it? It's about the young boy who was he was like in the he was like in the desert, and his journey was to find his destiny. I cannot think of the name of the book. It was a damn good book, man. It's a self-help book and it's a personal development book, but it was about a story about a boy. I can't think of the name of it, but it reminds me of Immortals. And I'll remember. I'll come back to. I'll get the name of that book. But anyways, he always had the guidance and the assistance of like an elder or like a wise man. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like the the astrological aspects of the Jesus story with the baby in the manger type thing, where the stars, the wise men were always watching over him. So in Immortals, what would that character symbolize, or who would that character symbolize? The elder, the old man that was watching over Theseus throughout the whole entire movie, when he was just like the old, old bummy, old hag type character, but he actually was a god that was watching over Theseus to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, he was able to kind of tap into almost like going from Simba into Mufasa, the Osset,
Mm.
Sar and drama.
So the blueprint of the holy drama
Mhm.
is the math that tells the rightful heir how to properly ascend the throne and
Mm,
who currently is displacing him from his royal seat. This is the mythology of Set versus Osiris. The brothers fight, and Set designs a coffin for Osiris and puts it in and locks him in it and kill him. So then he scared he's going to resurrect. So he go chop him up into pieces and spread him along the Nile. So the Easter egg hunt, because the Ishtar, Isis, had the babies help her find the remains of Osiris, and they used the Heka magic that they learned from Tahuti. And so once she brings Osiris pieces together, his phallus is missing. So she decides to absorb his essence, his DNA code, which is already in her, and use it to spontaneously create a son, right? So she's using the blueprint of Osiris, the father, in order to generate a carbon copy of the father in Horus, the son, who's going to avenge his father from his uncle Set and retake the throne, right? It's a math problem, but you will never see it as a conceptual physics problem until you become turned on as the rightful heir to unravel how to reascend to the throne.
That's deep. Yeah, man, that's deep. That's real deep. And you know what? It also triggers something in me too to think about the mothers and how, you know, the symbolism that we see is being shown right before our very eyes at all times. So now if you remember in the movie Immortals, there was a part where Theseus had to go into like this monastery or like this monk, you know, type place where they was hiding out. And the only way for him to be able to access the true, you know, saying Ashe or the true power, he had to get with the females, the feminine energy. So to me, that would be symbolism to the female natures, but also of like the Aj. To me, that would be like the symbolism of the Iyami or the Aj from
So
Ifa.
you
Correct?
remember earlier when I told you I got 7 godmothers named Mary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they are the ones that anoints the sun. If you look on the hieroglyphic wall, you will see a procession of women, and they'll have a vase in their hand, and the one that's standing before the child will be pouring the vase across his head. She's anointing him. That's what anointing means. And once he's anointed by the 7 sisters, that's when they turn on what's called the Pleiadian light, which is the ability to access your pineal gland and turns on your third eye. So they are calling on the forces of the ancestors to speak through this child. And the ancestors has to study the problem. So the child has to go through a life where the problem is constantly part of his reality until he can figure out the solution to deliver to the people in order to free them from the tyranny of oppression.
Yeah. Ooh, that's deep. That's real deep. I love it. Oh
That's the
man.
purpose of the Redeemer, though.
Yeah.
The Redeemer's job is to redeem the lost sheep, right? In order for them to receive their due inheritance.
Mm.
Right? So you go back to the book of Ruth. Ruth decided to be patient and wait for the Redeemer to come before she would leave, and before she would leave her mother-in-law, who she was taking care of, who she didn't have to, who told her, go on about your business like Orpha, big fat funky Oprah, who turned your back on your sisters in order to defect from the Delta, the Mississippi Delta, your roots.
That's deep. And shout out to Akelia Wright. She sent me, that was The Alchemist. That's the book I was trying. I can't believe I can remember. I was trying to look at it on my phone to find it in my library. But yeah, The Alchemist. So that kind of what we're talking about kind of reminds me of The Alchemist. Have you read that book? The Alchemist?
I haven't read that one.
Oh, it's a good read. You'll like that one. It's a dope book. Real dope book. But okay, so now when it comes to where we are now, all right. When we talk about the mothers, and clearly everybody knows this is a mother's house, a matriarchal house. Isis, Aset, when you see her in the hieroglyphs and the pyramids, a lot of times you'll see her with her arms extended and you see the wings, like, you know, or even if she's like has them, you know, down by her side, you see the wings. Can you kind of share what the wings symbolize in regards to this thing we call flight? In regards to, and also how that kind of connects to the sun when you talk about the sun. And
you got first thing you got to realize is the reason she got feathers on is because that's Mesoamerican culture. what we call Olmec, Inca, Aztec, Old Mississippians. It's Mesoamerican culture. It's the same thing that you see when you see the tribes dressing up with the feathers on, with the wings. They're imitating the ceremonial dress of Tahuti. This Tahuti land over here, right? So, as the land of Tahuti, all of the tribes call him the Great Father. This is the Great Osirian. But in Africa, they refer to the Great Osirian as Enki. So you got two distinct, different patriarchal lines influencing two different continents. That's the first thing you got to understand about seeing her with her wings spread.
Mm.
And his symbolism is the full aura, right? Because when the aura is fully illuminated and you can see the aura, sometimes when people stretch their arms out like that, it gives the appearance that they have wings made of light.
Mm.
So the ancestors have to remind you of that. So they create what's called archetype artistic expression.
Mm.
So they put the wings on the pottery so that you will remember that spiritually you have wings.
Mm.
Right now, the technological wing disc, right, is the symbol for the fleet of the sky. The fleet of the sky was under the command of Enlil, which translates into English as Lord of the Sky or Lord of the Rumbling Voice. Right? So when we're looking at the symbols, not until we know the origin of the symbol and what it means in its origin, will we know the truth of the matter of what they concealing from us in our face, behind our back. Using symbols to talk above our concept or understanding.
Yeah, that's deep. That's real deep. Not because, yeah. Oh man. Okay. So let me ask you this, because this has been a hot topic and a hot debate on the channel since our first interview. Where did human life begin from your perspective? Because some people have seen disagreements. Some people saying America, we was here first. Some people saying Africa, we was there first. Can you kind of break down from your research and your studies which one you feel like was the origin or birthplace of humanity?
So the outer Africa theory is predicated on Lucy being the oldest recovered hominid, bipedal hominid ever discovered at 3.5 million years old. The problem with that is the species of hominid that Lucy was is called proconsul. Proconsul was not a human. It was a chimpanzee. So the out of Africa theory ties in and was influenced by the philosophy of Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory that has never been proven. It's debatable. That's why it's still a theory. But the reality of it is all humans is made of the carbon base of corn. Scientists already have went through this research. The only place that you find corn originally was the Americas. Corn was exported to the world from America, and that's why the Corn Festival was one of the most sacred festivals we had that drew tribes all the way to what we call today the Aztec temples from both North and South America for the Great Corn Festival. This is why you have these so many different types of corn, but you only know about the Oshun corn, the yellow corn. But the corn is the carbon that made up the human. And if you look at it, you got so many different colors of corn. right? So the breeding or the laboratories that have all of the genetic profiles in phenotype is in Teotihuacan in the temples on the walls. So the human was created quintessentially in the Americas and exported to the rest of the world. Now you could say we was all at Pangea at the time, right? Because when they say something is pagan, they say it's Pangean. That means it go back to the earliest days of Atlantean civilization.
That's deep. That's real deep. That's real deep.
So remember, Tartaria is Tartarus, and Tartarus is the land that's under the ice in Antarctica.
That's deep.
Atlantis was the Americas as the capital of Atlantis with the original Temple of Isis. The waters used to, in the night sky under the little moon before they parked Luna out here, used to shine and glisten in the night sky. And it used to look like she was surrounded by glistening, flowing rivers of metal because of the fluorescent nature of the black moon. It's like having a black light in the club.
Ooh, that's deep. Listen, let me jump in real quick because we're moving now, family. Y'all buckle up, Buttercup, because we're moving now. So how does that relate to the aurora borealis and how that glistens, at the poles?
So that comes from a refraction of light as it radiates off the gases. Or you ever be driving down the street and you see that wave of heat coming up? Right. So it's like that, but it's in the atmosphere. And it's composed of gases. The same way that wave is composed of gases being released from the earth. And the refraction of the light going through the gases gives us the luminosity that gives us that effect of the aurora borealis, the northern lights or the southern lights. Now, when the solar flares get intense, the ends of the aurora borealis moves further south from the North Pole, and the southern lights move further north from the South Pole. It's showing you the impact of the solar energy radiation that's coming in because it's making the heat up faster, that's covering more spectrum of light across a broader surface area.
Woo! That's deep. That's real deep. Now, I remember last week when you was on, you had a dope emblem. I was looking at it in the replay. I couldn't really see it while we was on the live, but I saw it in the replay, and I think I got an idea of what that means or is symbolic to. But before we go into that, can you kind of share
this one?
Yeah, nope. Well, let me see. Can you move it a little bit more to your right? But okay, yeah, it was that one. I didn't see the full. See, I didn't see the headdress. All I saw was the face. Can you kind of share what that symbol, what that means, what that's symbolic?
That's a full bonnet, full feathered, full bonnet war chief. Chief Pontiac is a war chief. Ottawa. I'm an old Mississippian with the oldest rank, so by my old ass being on the territory of the Ottawa and having the competent capability to arrange military strategy and tactics behind the scenes, then I inherit the responsibility to recover the Chief Pontiac aspect of the war by telling all the tribes what's going on the land.
Yes, that's deep. And it reminds me of two things. It reminds me of some of the masks that was worn in the movie Immortals, but it also reminds me of, I want to say it was either the Mayas or the Aztecs guys. One of them. I can't remember which one it was. I was just looking at something earlier, doing a little research. but I saw that face looked very similar to one of their I don't know if he was a deity or what his role was, but it looks very similar to someone who was significant in one of those two cultures. I can't remember which one. Now with Tiahuashin, and that's the mountain of the moon, correct? Or is it the mountain of the sun?
Not for sure. I don't want to say for sure.
It's one or the other. It's either the mountain. It's either the mountains. It's either attributed to the sun or the moon. I can't remember. But every time I look at it, it definitely looks like, especially the large one, the big one. It looks like that would be a landing pad for some very significant crafts at the very top of it.
They don't need no landing pad. That's one of the most 3D earth-minded things you could think that they need a landing pad. They can use stilts and land damn near anywhere. And they can launch a landing pad from the bottom of their ship that will land on the ground, but it'll make them hover above the disc. They don't need no damn landing pad. That's some 3D shit. They can go through portals. They can land on water and don't sink. Or they can land on the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. That's deep.
Right? They can stay under the water longer than we can in our submarines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they know how to extract the oxygen out of the water using the metal of the ship as a breathing apparatus.
Yep. We really about to go, folks. So nah, for real though. We really about to go. Because now I got video footage of 2 crafts, and I have pictures of maybe 3 or 4 that I caught personally. Now I can't say how many I've seen. I've seen so many I can't even say, but I actually have receipts for 2 that I've seen, and I have pictures of maybe up to about 5 that I've actually caught on camera. But I've seen a lot of different types of crafts, and I've actually filmed a couple that I'll share. I might embed it into this when I do the upload with this, but I do know that there are certain types of crafts that are attributed to certain types of beings. And this is going to bring me into where I wanted to go, kind of ask some questions that the tribe had too. Now,
you can't allow the oppressed to understand what the oppressor is doing that keeps them oppressed. Mm-hmm. What is the tools of oppression being used to tie your hands, your feet, and bind you to their cross? Mm-hmm. If you don't understand it, there's no way you can help yourself, let alone somebody else. So some of us, Larry say, some of us got to hit the books. We ain't gang banging no more. We brain banging, because as he matured as an individual and self-educated himself in prison, it dawned on him that the conditions, we wasn't educated enough in our community to see the conditions and to read the strategy being used against us. We didn't understand warfare. We didn't understand political paradigms. We didn't understand conquest and conquering mechanisms of power from kings and queens, because everybody over here was a no big I know you philosophy. And if we had a problem with each other, we ran that fade, but didn't nobody die. Mm-hmm. Now they die off the basic misunderstanding you could think of. Right? Why you step on my shoe? Remember what Ice Cube wrote? Us. We'll always sing the blues, because all we care about is hairstyles and tennis shoes. And if you stepped on mine, you pushed a button, because I'm going to beat you down like it ain't nothing. Killing each other like savage beasts, but I'm the first one to holler out peace, black man. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Ice Cube told us that, and he was like 22, 23 when he told us that. If that. So how well did that teenage boy understand the problem to be able to put it in song format to express it to us? Right? And this is all done by outside interference. And this all traced back to the underlying cause, to Larry being locked up, Jeff being locked up, Imam Al-Amin being locked up, Asada being in exile. It's all the same.
But Rod, I was, and I was just about to ask you. That was going to be my next question. Why do you think Trump keeps calling, black people get happy? Anything Trump do, Trump supporters, they the biggest dick riders I ever seen in my life. But Trump keeps saying he wants Asada. He wants to bring Asada back to the States. Why you think he keeps talking about Asada? Cuba ain't letting Asada go. Why does Trump keep talking about he
Cuba,
want? Yeah.
Cuba not holding her hostage. Cuba not holding her hostage. The problem is if they want Asada to come home, everybody write to Governor New Jersey and say, give us pardon Asada. Just like they want all these people in the Fed to be pardoned by Trump, but ain't nobody's really speaking up for Asada Shakur. You had a few people that understood the struggle. Khan got a song about Asada. Pac talked about her in a couple of songs. But the reason why you want people to continuously mention the name of a person that suffers an injustice, so that you can establish justice on behalf of the person that was done unjustly. Somebody got to be able to tell the story of Asada Shakur, and who better to tell the story than Asada Shakur? She the best person to tell the Asada Shakur story. I could tell her story. Pac could tell her story. Biggie can tell her story. Mobb Deep can tell her story. NWA can tell it. The best person to tell Asada Shakur story is Asada Shakur, and they don't want her telling her story. But now that the old system, because remember, the last 8-9 years we've been going through continuity of government since the first Trump administration. Right? We got to remember, Obama is a foreigner. He's not from here. And he wasn't born here is why the birth certificate even matter. Because constitutionally, when he took office, that was the end of America. America had been successfully conquered by a foreign outside force. They tried to kill him for it. Did Gregory tell the story about Petraeus and how Petraeus got arrested trying to assassinate Obama? But he ain't tell you what it was about. Obama looked like us, but he not one of us. He one of them boys from Brazil, from the Nazi breeding program, and they got more than one of them.
I think you told me something about Akhenaten, right? They breed.
Yeah, that's who money they took cells from to culture the cells and reproduce a pharaoh that they thought could pull rank on the boy king. You're not gonna do that. It's a hierarchy of enforcement in the tribal ways around the world. All tribes was put into the game and under Sukarno during the Bang Dong conference. All tribes was activated then. We didn't have no answer for white supremacy before the Bang Dong conference. Now we had an answer for it, but everybody not applying the answer. Or else it wouldn't have took us from the 1950s Bang Dong conference to the 2020s in order to determine how to break free. Nobody's paying attention. Everybody's trying to live their own individual life, but it's the sacrifice of the community. And then by sacrificing the community to live your life, you end up getting sacrificed by the community for living your life. So it's the two double-edged swords cutting both ways.
Yeah. I want to read you because I want to post this. I want to wait. Hold up. Let me text my lady back. Give me 1 second. I want to read you because I want to read you some comments from Instagram and TikTok, and I'm gonna take this answer. What you answer with this, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna post it on Instagram and TikTok as a clip because majority of us on this channel, we know what the deal is. These people that's commenting, making certain remarks, they may not be privy to the same information as the people on this channel. So I just want to let you know how some of the masses may think when they hear about Larry Hoover. Hold up. Give me a second, family. Larry Hoover is a man who should have never been pardoned. Another comment. Black men who contribute to the delinquency of their communities always get so much love, but God forbid a woman is a stripper or entertainer or speaks up against the speaks up about abuse. Next comment. We have to understand how the system works so we can recognize performative acts with the agenda to appease our people. Trump can only pardon at a federal level. Hoover still has life with the state. So at the end of the day ended with the same result as yesterday. Next comment. No, we got to stop glorifying gang leaders that contributed to the detriment of our community. Next comment. He was a gangster that contributed to the demise and destruction of his own black community. Let's not do this. Crawl, and they said Chance because that's the person. Chance the Rapper made a post about him defending him. So they said, Chance, crawl back into the hole you came out of. Next comment. Meanwhile, grandma Medicaid is being taken away, but NBA is back. Y'all so celebrity obsessed. Next comment. Y'all acting like he's Fred Hampton or something. This is ridiculous. And this is going to be the last comment I read, and you can make your response. And like I said, I'm going to post this for people who may not be privy to the information on people in this as the people on this channel. Indeed, he was a no. Where was it? Hold up, y'all. All right, I'm gonna end it there because I don't see. I'm gonna see it there. What do you think about those comments on Instagram and TikTok?
It shows how either those people are not our people and don't understand our culture, or they've been successfully indoctrinated by the assimilation system that Garvey warned us about. Because once you believe that the system is working in your interest, anybody that they villainize is going to be your villain, and anybody that they make a hero is going to be your hero. This is how we get caught up in celebrity worship, as one of the comments was about celebrities. The celebrity worship is they give us celebrities in place of leadership. So we had a bunch of children in the 80s called rappers that came out as children and told us about leadership in music. So they had to shut it down. These people was waged a war against us, and propaganda warfare is more powerful than bullets and gun warfare. Because under bullets and gun warfare, you can clearly see the enemy busting at you. But when you go into propaganda warfare, your enemy controls the media, your enemy controls the banking system, your enemy controls the education of your child, that your enemy controls your entertainment, right? Your enemy controls where you're going to work, if you're going to be able to stay there. Your enemy control all political arenas from the local level to the federal level and everything in the middle. Your enemy has placed admiralty judges across the land to give you the appearance of legitimacy. Your enemy has put uniforms on and flooded the community because they foreign agents. They have to clearly identify themselves. If you don't understand none of that stuff, then you speaking presumptuously without knowing why you feel the way you feel. The only reason why you don't know that you've been indoctrinated and brainwashed is because you've been indoctrinated and brainwashed. I don't even like to say brainwashed. I like to say contaminated mind. Because to wash something is to cleanse it. So I think most of us need to be brainwashed because they gave us so much filth to put our trust in a government that has nothing to do with the people. That's not actually a government. It's actually a corporation like Halliburton did in Iraq and Afghanistan. They repeating the same history over and over, but you have people that still don't know what's going on in the world around them, so they derive opinions based off propaganda warfare. And you're going to always, when you base your opinion off propaganda, You're going to always show yourself by the stance you take on the topic you do not understand, but you think you do, right? Neely Fuller was quoted by Francis Wellesley in the ISIS papers. And it said, the quote she quoted him as saying is, if you don't understand white supremacy, then everything that you think you understand is only confusing you. I come from the school of thought and didn't feel like this. We're not always supposed to all agree all the time. That's foolish. People have a right to have a different opinion than I have, a different understanding of the same material that we both read than I have. They may see stuff in there that I don't see. I may see stuff in there that they don't see. That goes to individuality. The person being able to express themselves and to tell you what they see, but also able to understand and listen to what you see. That gave you 2 points of view on the same subject matter, and now you use it as comparative analysis to reconcile the differences in the two. This is exactly the process of questioning that Neely Fuller give in the United Independent Compensatory Code in order to combat the ideology of white supremacy. White supremacy is an actual operative war protocol being instituted under the all 9 areas or 10 areas of people activity. The blueprint or the definition of what it is written as protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which is billed as a fictitious document, but everything that they say them people is doing in that book, they actually doing it in real life. And if you understood the book, you can look around and you can see that the people that's in charge of everything in the book told you what they was going to try to get in charge of. And they did it. And the only reason they was more successful than us is because they was teaching us something called rugged individualism, where we can pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps when we don't have boots. So this is how they get us seduced into fighting for them instead of fighting to liberate our own self and our own mind. That's why Larry say, we not gang banging, we brain banging. Get in the library and read the books. Read the whole library if you can. The law library, the art library, whatever library you get into, read it. Because as the information mature in your mind, you'll be able to see the problem better. So those people that made those comments, they entitled to say whatever they want to say, but that don't make them right. Right? Like somebody brought up the Alliance Credit Union case. More of the Alliance Credit Union, and they was telling me that the case was fictitious, so I had to go double back and found that it was based on the ruling of a tax case, Moore versus United States, but somebody used it to put the information as to how to defend against the mortgage fraud in a case based on that other case. So it's like a parody. The thing about it is there's a 1890 something case or early 1900s case out of it's either Minnesota or Wisconsin in the Northwest Territory that tells how the person who had the mortgage was defrauded because the bank never gave them anything of value. Right? And that case still stands, but nobody uses it to fight their mortgage claims. Right? But the more of the Alliance Credit Union is using the same information that was used in the prior case to write the parody based on the more of the United States case. And I had to go back and look into that. But all the information is not always accurate. You guys be able to withstand correction if you want to move beyond the error. Ain't nobody perfect. We ain't supposed to believe everything that everybody say anyway. We supposed to believe what our inner self tell us about what they say more than we believe what they say. Because once you become your first point of reference, you begin to see through a lot of the misaligned information. Like the villainizing of words is critical to propaganda warfare. tribe and gang mean the same thing. And matter of fact, not only do they mean the same thing, democracy at its root, where the majority rule by vote, ties back into them same two words, tribe and gang. Right? It's called mob rule in democracy. And when you go back to just read Plato's Republic, and you realize that all of the stuff they're doing is a big stage play in order to occupy the mortal mind while they rule the world. Right? So those people can have their opinions and they can believe everything they want to believe. But Iran-Contra proves that the government was bringing the dope in, flooding our communities with it.
You know, Rod, so you talked about this stage play that's happening while certain elite, so-called elite, rule the world. This so-called elite, Phil calls them the parasitic elite. They have access to a lot of information we don't have access to.
Yes, they do.
They hide a lot of information and use it for themselves, or or they flood the world with misinformation just to confuse the people. You are a very spiritual brother. Obviously, we all know at this point. One of the things that you do is astro travel. And you told me we had the conversation on the phone. You told me you astro traveled and came across the information in this book. What I want to ask you, let's get a little deeper now. We talked about, the surface level of this thing. Let's get a little spiritual with this thing here. If you astro travel and you're coming across certain information, I'm sure you come across certain spirits when you astro travel. Have you ever came across the elite, the so-called elite, while you're astral traveling, because they're trying to obtain the same information you're trying to obtain, because they know where the fuck to go to get it? It's in your DNA. You know, but you don't know, but you running into the motherfuckers, and they're like, what you doing here? And you like, what you doing here? And you're there at the same time. Have you ever ran into them astral traveling, my brother?
Well, you gotta remember, one of the things that you learn when you practicing sorcery is cloak magic.
Yeah.
Cloaking magic, they might look like a disincarnate being of a grotesque nature, or they can look extremely attractive. It don't matter, as long as you don't see the person for who they are. The same magic is being played on us in the physical realm that they use in the astral to hide themselves while they do their dirt. Franz Bardone wrote a book called Forbato the Magician. And in the book, Forbato the Magician, they made a movie about it with Perry Mason in it.
Okay.
Anyway, he was talking about his war with the dark sorcerers in the book. And it's a fiction, but it's loosely based on his life. Right? And he's telling how they use magic, and you can sense the magic better than you can sense who's sending it. Right? So they was using rituals against him, and then he was using counter magic, protection magic, to block him out from doing anything to him. Right? So on the astral plane, normally if somebody have malice, they don't astral travel. Most of the elites today don't use spirit science. They use technology to do the same thing that you do spiritually. Right? While we was astral traveling, they was learning remote viewing, but they was also developing a computer program that can do massive amounts of mathematical equations called Operation Looking Glass. Right? And they got frustrated with it because no matter what scenario they put in, it was always a 2012 convergence from every angle they looked at the problem, no matter what they tried to interject as a different variable. Right? So they use technology because a lot of them don't have access to the spirit realm, the astral realm, the etheric realms. They don't have access. So they use the technology in the 3D world as if it was magic. But they don't astral travel much. Normally, what you find in the astro travel is you find somebody that was a convert or a loyalist to the elites.
Mm.
And they haphazardly traveling, they don't even know what they're doing. And you bump into them, and it's like bumping into somebody that don't really understand where they at on the street. Like, where am I at? You can clearly sense their sense of amnesia. That means they traveling, but they don't know they traveling. They think they just having a dream.
Damn. What's your thoughts on? I think I seen you post something on Instagram. Let me pull it up real quick. Shout out to y'all in the chat. What we got going on in the chat? We got about 3,400 people in here. Shout out to all of y'all. Let me pull up something with Rod. Give me 1 second, y'all. Take a 2-second break in the chat. Your Instagram is the SikApe, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. You put up something about let me.
Plant, mammal, reptile. The powerhouse of all cells is mitochondria.
Yes.
The solar flares is scanning. They bursting information to the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth is responding in Schumann resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Mm-hmm.
now, when the solar rays are coming through, it also pass through the people.
Mm-hmm.
They call photons.
Mm-hmm.
The photons accumulate at the core of the Earth, and the data is exchanged with the Earth's core.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then the Earth sends out a Schumann blast that responds to the solar flare. It also passes through the people in order to get the message back to the sun. So this is the dawn of a new age. So first they got to calibrate solar flare Schumann resonance response. Once they get calibrated, it's going to be what they call the great solar flare. When that one hit, the Earth is going to do what's called Atlas shrug. It's going to shiver at the core. We're not going to feel an earthquake when it shivers. But what it's going to do is send out a broadband wavelength of Schumann resonance that serve as a parasite removal for any artificial mitochondrial connected beings. That means that they ain't originally from here, and they fabricated the mitochondrial in order to be able to occupy here. Well, at the close of the age, the Earth know who everybody is genetically because we all imprinted on the Earth's core. So when she sent out the blast, anybody that's on the wrong frequency, they belong here will come back in the future under the conditions that allow them to attain the proper frequency. But the ones that's not from here, they gonna be talking about they hear sirens in their head.
Damn.
They gonna have nose bleed, eyes, ears bleeding. But that Schumann resonant blast, some of them is just gonna turn them straight off.
What does that look like? Turning them off. What does that look like?
And walking down the street and you just drop dead.
Shit.
You driving down in your car, you just die. It's like somebody just turn your brain off or turn your heart off. Like it with a switch. You go in immediate slump mode.
Yeah.
Those are what Bobby Hemmett referred to as spirit artificial. Right? We got rid of them before, but they loyalists that won't be here this time called them back in. We talk about that in the Emerald Tablets, the Dark Brothers.
What do they say about the Dark Brothers in the Emerald 10? This is Thoth speaking. I asked somebody real quick, Rod. I asked somebody. I forgot. I didn't ask so many questions, Rod. I forgot who I asked this to. When you talk about Thoth and the different names of Thoth, Hermes, Jehuti, you never hear a white person saying Jehuti. They'll say Thoth, they'll say Hermes, they might even say Tahuti, but the actual pronunciation of Jehuti, the D and the J. It's like, and I forgot who I asked this question to. I was like, when you talked about the boy king, Tutankhamun, and you said Tupac was the reincarnation of Tutankhamun. Whenever white people, and I'm not trying to get shots at white people, y'all know what I'm talking about when I say this, because a lot of white people think that white aren't really white, but y'all know what I'm talking about. When certain white people say the name Tupac, they always say Tupac. They never say Tupac. They always say Tupac. And it's like, you done heard this is the most famous rapper that ever existed. One of them, you heard his name over and over, but you could pronounce Arnold Schwarzenegger. You could pronounce all these complicated white names, but when you say Tupac, they'll say Tupac. So why you never hear white people say Jehuti? What is it about the frequency of the vibration? Because we always talk about Tahuti, but the frequency of Jehuti, you never hear nobody say that. Only a few people, the elders, say that.
Most of the palefaces speech pattern comes from Latin and Greek.